go. And it's on page 63 of your big book if you want to follow along. God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always.
Excellent. All right. Guys, today we're on page 14. We're at near the top, the first full paragraph. These were revolutionary and drastic proposals.
Okay, Leo, did you want me to go back?
Well, I looked at that. I guess if we did, we needed to go back a couple of 3 paragraphs actually, because it's right in the middle.
So page 13.
Yeah.
So do you want to start with my friend promised?
Sure, let's do that.
Okay, so page 13, everybody.
Yeah, very bottom of the page.
My friend promised when these things were done, I would enter upon a new relationship with my Creator, that I would have the elements of a way of living which answered all my problems. Belief in the power of God, plus enough willingness, honesty, and humility to establish and maintain the new order of things were the essential requirement. Simple, but not easy. A price had to be paid. It meant destruction of self-centeredness. I must turn in all things to the Father of light, who presides over us all.
Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit last week. This is the beginning of step 12. If you kind of look into this paragraph, it's really kind of the indication that a step 12 is required, as we all know, and the reference to that. So, and I think that this is, I put an asterisk next to simple but not easy. I really believe that it's very simple in what you are asked and expected to do in order to do a proper step 12 and conducting, helping other people. And it's so important, but it isn't always easy. And that's a hallmark of this. It just takes some work, takes a little bit of time, and it takes a little bit of effort, and you'll be good. So, destruction of self-centeredness. I must turn things over to the Father light. The idea is that you let go, you let your higher power enter in and go based on the guidance you get from that. Rob?
Okay, we're on page 14, everybody. These were revolutionary and drastic proposals, but the moment I fully accepted them, the effect was electric. There was a sense of victory, followed by such a peace and serenity as I had never known. There was utter confidence. I felt lifted up, as though the great clean wind of a mountaintop blew through and through. God comes to most men gradually, but his impact on me was sudden and profound.
Yep. So this is just that I remember this feeling that I had when I finally let go. I stopped the struggle, I stopped fighting, and I stopped this whole process of trying to figure out how I was going to either stop drinking, I was going to hide my drinking, I was going to drink and control it. It was just this madness that I was going through. And when I finally let go of everything, much like what they went and described here, it was a calmness that just fell over me. I just felt calm, and it was it's like everything went away, and all of a sudden there was this clarity, there was this focus, and it felt right. And I think that it, as much as anything, was my spiritual experience, my kind of culmination of building up, kind of touching it, then not touching it. It's, trying it, not trying it, 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of thing. It was kind of what Bill is trying to describe here with his, although I think his was a little bit more profound than what mine was. Mine was very quiet, very calming, and very peaceful. His I think was a little bit more abrupt and active. And I think that he probably ultimately came to the same place of that calmness and that sense of peace. But I think there was a little bit more to the abruptness to his spiritual experience, and that's what we're describing here. Rob?
Yeah, Bill went into treatment on December 11th. This is December 14th when he has what I classify as his white light experience. You know, as Leo said, for most people, it's a very, very gradual progression. I didn't realize that I had you know, a spiritual experience until I was about 3 months into the fellowship. And what happened is that I got laid off from work. And some of you have probably heard this before, but I'll just go over it again because it was such a profound effect on me. Is that when I walked out of the office, normally I would have felt that the world was collapsing around me. Work was was who I was. But I walked out of the office door, I looked up and I said, God, I know you got better things in store for me. Please take me to them. That's when I realized that I had now come to accept a higher power in my life. Profound. Because before I would have just been crippled by worry, remorse, bitterness of them letting me go. But here it was a question of I knew he was going to take me to a better place. And did he ever take me to a better place? I got the best job I had ever had in my life. It didn't last a very long period of time. It lasted about 1.5 years, but it was the best job I ever had. It restored my confidence. It gave me, so much value. I just loved it. I loved the people I got to work with. Best thing that ever happened in my life. Sorry, I get goosebumps when I talk about it. For a moment, I was alarmed and called my friend, the doctor, to ask if I were still sane. He listened in wonder as I talked. Finally, he shook his head, saying, "Something has happened to you. I don't understand, but you had better hang on to it. Anything is better than the way you were." The good doctor now sees many men who have such experiences. He knows that they are real.
Yeah, I think that for the first time, somebody that is in this newfound place, and they present themselves to somebody else, you can imagine what that reaction would be. And certainly, there is this sense of unknown. Like, I just don't know this person. It's just this different person altogether. And I think that there's kind of, for somebody that's on the outside watching it, they probably think less about, is this real? Although in this case, the doctor, Dr. Silkworth, did in fact say that this was real, and it was a reinforcement for him to support this going forward, etc. I think that the people that are really close to us, when they finally see this, they're probably a mix of emotions. And so it's one of the things that you have to kind of take gradually, and that is that they are going to be a little skeptical, a little bit weary of whether or not this is just another 2-week wonder, Leo that wants everybody to forgive and forget everything after 2 weeks of white knuckling it and that type of thing. So, but it is a positive, and there always has to be that stepping off point. And that certainly is the case here for this, for what Bill was experiencing. And I'm, he wants to share it with other people. It's the beginning of getting out there and getting in front of people and doing a step 12. Although Dr. Silkworth didn't need a step 12, but it's just the motions and the actions going through it. Rob?
Yeah. Dr. Silkworth, one of the things that they gave patients was belladonna. Belladonna is known to cause hallucinations. Did Bill have a hallucination, or did he have a spiritual experience? Dr. Silkworth, who knows? Okay, was it a spiritual experience? But Dr. Silkworth said, you better hang on to whatever it is you have, because it's better than what you had before. So Dr. Silkworth could have said, no, Bill, it was just, a part of a hallucination from the belladonna. But no, Dr. Silkworth, smart man, said, hold on to what you got. While I lay in the hospital, the thought came that there were thousands of hopeless alcoholics who might be glad to have what had been so freely given me. Perhaps I could help some of them. They in turn might work with others.
Yep. Again, this is just a quick reference that he's coming to the conclusion that this is great for me. It should be great for somebody else, and perhaps I need to share it with other people. So this is the genesis or the of coming to the conclusion that a step 12 is necessary. Rob?
Yeah, and as our friend Bill always says, this book is littered with step 12 references. Always help other people. That's one of the most important things we're going to get out of this book. My friend had emphasized the absolute necessary of demonstrating these principles in all my affairs. Particularly, it was imperative to work with others, as he had worked with me. Faith without works was dead, he said, and how appallingly true for the alcoholic. For if an alcoholic failed to perfect and enlarge his spiritual life through work and self-sacrifice for others, he could not survive the certain trials and low spots ahead. If he did not work, he would surely drink again, and if he drank, he would surely die. Then faith would be dead indeed. With us, it is just like that.
Yeah, this is kind of a good paragraph to kind of describe a recipe for faith and open-mindedness and a willingness to take this message and carry it forward to other people in need. And he's really just reinforcing the fact that this step 12 and carrying and helping others is a necessary thing, and having this faith that we talk about is also important. And remember, we have to have belief before we have faith, and then faith will follow belief. Rob?
Yeah, and here's one of the most important things that we're going to learn: how to perfect and enlarge our spiritual life. Remember, Jim failed to perfect and enlarge his spiritual life, and he went back drinking. Okay, it tells us here on page 14 and 15, how do we perfect and enlarge our spiritual life? Through work and self-sacrifice, by going to work with other people, helping them out. So we have to remember that, because it's such an important part. Because we don't want to stay where we are. Faith and spirituality are growth, and we always want to get better at it. So it's by constantly working on it. My wife and I abandoned ourselves with enthusiasm to the idea of helping other alcoholics to a solution of their problems. It was fortunate for my old business associates remained skeptical for a year and a half, during which I found little work. I was not too well at the time and was plagued by waves of self-pity and resentment. This sometimes nearly drove me back to drink, but I soon found that when all other measures failed, work with another alcoholic would save the day. Many times I've gone to my old hospital in despair. On talking to a man there, I would be amazingly lifted up and set on my feet. It is a design for living that works in rough going.
Yeah, and if we were to look at page 89 at the very top, it says it the best as I've ever seen it, and its practical experience shows that nothing will so much as ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. It works when other activities fail, and it is absolutely the truth. I'm in a much better place, better mood, better thought process, clarity, focus, and just a better mood overall after having worked with another person or a group of people such as this. And so I can just say that it is absolutely true that the more you reach out to other people, the more you talk to them, the better your sobriety becomes, and the stronger you are in regards to that. And he does talk a little bit about these plagued by waves of self-pity and resentment. Sure, I know that there are times even now that I struggle they're small and short-lived, but in the past they were a little bit larger and longer lived. And it was this, why couldn't I drink like other people? How come it is that I failed at this? And idea that I have to remind myself that this is a disease And I wouldn't call it a failure, even though I accused myself of it in the past a lot. I don't so much anymore. I've gotten very used to and very happy with myself, and I don't have these waves of resentment and feeling sorry for myself and that type of thing. But you can imagine for somebody that was as far gone as Bill, having gone to rehab, we'll call it rehab, at least 3 times, and finally come to terms with everything. Drink was a big part of his life, and it's now gone. And so even that in and of itself is a bit of a loss. You feel that sense of loss when you stop drinking. At least I know I did. It was this big hole that or void that I was, kind of scared to fill. I wasn't quite sure if I was going to be able to do that or not. And much like Rob has described, I certainly did, and then some. Rob?
Yeah. Here are the human conditions that Bill's suffering from.
Mhm.
Self-pity and resentment. He couldn't find work. He had used up all his good graces, by getting drunk at the wrong time. We build the structure up only to tear it down. Bill's done this over and over again. So now people don't trust him. We figure after 2 weeks of being in the fellowship that everybody, everything is good and everybody should trust us again, that we're on the right track. And we are on the right track, but it takes time for other people to see that we're on the straight and narrow and we've changed our lives around. A year and a half, Bill. And let's be honest, if Bill had found work, he would have given up on this. He wouldn't have written a book. He wouldn't have gone around to Dr. Bob. He wouldn't, what we have today would not be available, So in one sense, it was a blessing for us. It was a curse for Bill as he's going through it. He's wondering, how can I support my family? His poor wife is out working all the time. Here he is at home, or hanging around brokerage offices trying to get a deal going, and nobody trusts him. So what does he do? And this is the most important thing that we have learned. Go help another alcoholic. Go help somebody else. Get out of yourself. Stop thinking about yourself, because let's be honest, our brains start rolling around and around and around. There was a gentleman that I go to his meetings, and he said, how long were you thinking about it before you turned it over to God? And how true that is. Sometimes we think of these things going on and on in our head for a long period of time before we realize, well, yeah, I should ask God. Or somebody else said it. Did you talk to God about it? No, I forgot about that. Hey, turn it over to God. Ask God what you should do about it. Oh, well. Next paragraph. There's going to be 8 promises here. See if you can get them all. I'll put them in the chat afterwards. We commence to make many fast friends, and a fellowship has grown up among us, of which it is a wonderful thing to feel a part. The joy of living we really have, even under pressure and difficulty. I've seen hundreds of families set their feet in the path that really goes somewhere. Have seen the most impossible domestic situations righted, feuds and bitterness of all sorts wiped out. I've seen men come out of asylums and resume a vital place in the lives of their families and communities. Business and professional men have regained their standing. There is scarcely any form of trouble and misery which has not been overcome among us. In one Western city and its environs, there are 1,000 of us in our families. We meet frequently so that newcomers may find the fellowship they seek. At these informal gatherings, one may often see from 50 to 200 persons. We are growing in numbers and power. Asterisk. In 2019, AA is composed of approximately 120,800 groups.
Yeah. And so, Rob is right. There's some promises in here, and we'll go ahead and kind of look at those. They're right there in the chat, but we'll kind of highlight them as we go along. One is we commence to make many fast friends, and a fellowship has grown up among us. of which it is a wonderful thing to feel a part of. 2, the joy of living, we really have. 3, I have seen hundreds of families set their feet in the path that really goes somewhere. 4, have seen the most impossible domestic situations righted. 5, feuds and bitterness of all sorts wiped out. 6, I have seen men come out of asylums and resume a vital place in the lives of their families and communities. 7, business and professional men have regained their standing. 8, there is scarcely any form of trouble and misery which has not been overcome among us. So it's a long paragraph, but it's a neat paragraph in that they basically start to summarize some of the benefits of finding your higher power, having that spiritual experience, and realizing true sobriety and recovery. So and I think that it'd be interesting to see how many groups we've grown to today, especially given that 2019 was before the pandemic. And there were a lot of groups that were formed. There was a lot of groups that went away as a result of the pandemic, but there were a lot of other ones formed because of Zoom and other formats that are used to communicate via technology. So it would be interesting to see how many, if they count those, and how many there are today. Rob?
Yeah, one of the important lines that we'll read right here is, we meet frequently so that newcomers may find the fellowship. Remember, the fellowship is there for newcomers to come so that we can meet them, that we can go to them and share what we have learned, share this message. And I'm pointing to my big book. I'm sure you already know that, but I'm pointing to my big book so that, and that's what it's all about, is that we can find newcomers. They can come, and find an incredible life. Because let's be honest, most of us that came into the AA were not exactly thrilled about the idea of it. We didn't know what to expect. We didn't know what we would have to do. Okay, I know I did. I had no idea what AA. I thought AA would teach me how to drink properly, like a gentleman. Little did I realize that I had an allergy, that the only thing I could do is abstinence, and I had a malady of the mind. That So I learned, and that's what it's all about, is we can teach newcomers exactly what they're dealing with. So keep searching out those newcomers. An alcoholic in his cups is an unloving creature. Our struggles with them are variously strenuous, comic, and tragic. One poor chap committed suicide in my home. He could not or would not see our way of life.
Yeah.
Do you want me to keep going, Leo, or do you want to talk about that?
Well, we can talk a little bit about this. Is Bill's cousin
Yep.
that committed suicide. We just found out recently, very recently, that the cousin had a brother, and that brother was on a note that Bill's cousin left to say, let my brother know, left an address, and it turns out that address is just around the corner from where Rob lives. So I think that's kind of neat with regard to how small this world is sometimes. But back to this, some people just, are too far gone. I say that because it's a different too far gone, because we've talked in the past here where we're getting people that are hopeless, that are people are giving up on them and that type of thing, because they've gotten to a place that is seems almost impossible to return from. But there is a group out there that just has a mental twist that just isn't quite right, that you can't tap into and can't get back. And that's unfortunate, because, I'm sure that they were trying to help Bill's cousin and getting him sober, but it just wasn't working. But there was at least an attempt to try to get him, and it was unfortunate what ultimately happened. Rob?
Yeah, poor Bill Cousins. Here's another one that saw no other way out. He was selling Bill and Lois's dress clothes out on the street in order to raise money to get money to drink. Yeah, it was funny. Yesterday I was at an AA history meeting, and they put up this little blurb from New York Daily News from October 29, 1936, and it was talking about Bill Cousins and 182 Clinton Street, which is where Bill lived, and how this gentleman had committed suicide. And then, it said that they gave an address of where this man he wanted his brother to be informed, and left the man's address. And I'm looking at it going, that's not far from where I live. So just to, as Leo said, this is a small world, and things, that so I'm hoping to go, it's only about 15-minute away from where I live, is to go over there, take a picture of what the house is looking like now. If it's still standing, who knows? I have no idea what I can expect, but they can at least put it with the article, so it just brings a little more things to life. It, this is a wonderful program, and the fact that we get energized by little things like that, and you realize, oh, Bill Cousins, I knew about him, but I didn't realize that he was a Canadian. Oh well, sorry about that, our U.S. friend, about what he did. There is, however, a vast amount of fun about it all. I suppose some would be shocked at our seemingly worldliness and levity, but just underneath there is deadly earnestness. Faith has to work 24 hours a day in and through us, or we perish. Most of us feel we need look no further for utopia. We have it with us right here and now. Each day, my friends, simple talk in our kitchen multiplies itself in a widening circle of peace on earth and goodwill to men.
Yeah, and we're kind of finishing up this paragraph, this chapter, and we make reference to the fact that we're in this to be sober. We're in this because of the seriousness of what is the ramifications if we don't stop drinking, the problems that just continue to grow, and to a point that we could in fact cause our own premature death because of it. So yes, there is seriousness that goes with it. There is pain and some suffering that has happened in the process. But just like anything, if you're not having fun, what's the use in doing it? As far as that goes, to some extent, obviously. But in this case, it is true. We do make light of the situation. We look back and chuckle, sometimes laugh at some of the things that we did. We find fellowship, we find friendship, companionship amongst ourselves, and that's certainly a positive, and it's something that we need to accentuate when we talk to other people and show them that the life that can be lived in a sober manner is a good one, and in fact it's a great one. And that's the important note that we're trying to make here at the end of this chapter. Rob?
Yeah, beautiful. Bill, I put in the chat, Bill had 36 years, 1 month and 13 days of sobriety when he passed away in 1971. Bill did the 12 steps, he had spiritual experience, and he worked with others carrying this message. And that's what the chapter shows. Shows the progression into alcoholism and the solution, and what he did in order to keep it. About 15 pages, of Bill's writing. Incredible. Just beautiful. So we go on to the next chapter, Leo. There is a solution.
That is correct. There is a solution. We have a common problem and a common solution. And I'll just point out a couple of notes here. AA was designed for people that relapse, are unable to stop on their own. It is not for people who can basically look at a glass of alcohol, stop, put it down, and not return to it, and decide just to stop drinking. That's not the person that we're necessarily going after, although they're welcome to be a part of the family if they want. But the real person that we're going after is the person that continues to relapse, that struggles with it, that can't stop under their own power. Another thing is that part of the solution is rest and nutrition. So I just want to say that those two things will actually assist and help in your recovery as long as you're getting enough rest and you're eating and taking in the right nutrition. You will find that you're in a better state of mind. And when you're in a better state of mind, especially one that's rested and satiated, you will find that you are better able to face the trials and tribulations that the human condition in life kind of throws at you. So just as an aside, this is also part of recovery and sobriety. Rob?
Okay. So we're on page 17, everybody. There is a solution. We of Alcoholics Anonymous know thousands of men and women who were once just as hopeless as Bill. Nearly all have recovered. They have solved the drink problem.
Yep, and that's a really profound statement. It's a couple of sentences here, but it's one that's absolutely true. We of Alcoholics Anonymous know thousands of men and women who were once just as hopeless as Bill, meaning that just like us, we're part of that whole family. We were just as hopeless as Bill at one point in time. And all of us, I'm hoping more than nearly all, but I would like to say that all have recovered and we have solved the drink problem. And certainly that is the goal. And it is achievable, it's attainable, and it's one that this book has been built around in helping, as well as seeking out other people that can help you also. Rob?
Yeah, May 10th, 1938, Bill started writing this book. The book is written in past tense. Also, there is a solution. There are not tons of solutions. They know of one solution, a solution. Okay, that's what they know about. Okay, now there might be other solutions out there. And if it can get you sober, great. But these first 100 people know of a solution that worked for them. That's what we're talking about here. We are average Americans. All sections of this country and many of its occupations are represented, as well as many political, economic, and social and religious backgrounds. We're people who normally would not mix, but there exists among us a fellowship, a friendliness, and an understanding which is indescribably wonderful. We're like the passengers of a great liner the moment after rescue from shipwreck, when camaraderie, joyousness, and democracy pervade the vessel from steerage to captain's table. Like the feelings of the ship's passengers, however, our joy and escape from disaster does not subside as we go our individual ways. The feeling of having shared in a common peril is one element in the powerful cement which binds us. But that in itself would never have held us together as we're now joined.
Yeah, this is a great paragraph. It's actually one of the, I would say, my top 25 paragraphs to kind of read and understand. And it is so true today. I don't think it was necessarily true in the very beginning. Most of the participants in AA were men. They were of a narrow band of socioeconomic backgrounds. But that has in fact expanded. Bill helped to do that. It's part of the reason why he left the Oxford group, was because they were being even more narrow-minded with regard to who could participate in the meetings that they were having. But we are coming from all walks of life. And when we say all walks, we are in fact talking about political, economic, social, religious backgrounds, financial, all kinds of things, young, old, different races, different creeds, etc. We can come together in a group, and all are welcome. I've yet to be, and I mean, I'm not one of the people that go to a lot of meetings, but I have yet to go to a meeting where I didn't feel like everybody in the group was welcome. One may be on the fringe, but that was only one. But out of all of that, they still welcomed everybody, regardless of how they treated them. But you're right. Normally, we wouldn't all come together. We wouldn't all mix. I mean, part of it is the distance that we have between us, but that's, we still are coming together, even though the distance is there. Um, but and you know, it's like we have this shared experience, and then we go our separate ways. You know, the other part of that is that we still feel very good. We still use the benefit of having other people with that shared experience and that camaraderie that comes with it. Rob?
Yeah, you know, this always takes me back to we're not a glum lot. We are an odd lot, but we are not a glum lot. You know, we get together and, you know, we have a good time. We laugh a lot. And that's what it's all about. You know what? I spent too many years, you know, crying my beer, you know, being miserable. You know, I don't come to AA meetings to be miserable. I come here because it's fun. I enjoy the people that I get to chum around with. I get to meet people from all over the world, you know, all over the world because of Zoom. The pandemic, for all, you know, the bad things that are about it, I've been able to connect with an awful lot of incredible people. You know, Leo, you talked earlier about a lot of meetings that have closed down, physical meetings. In Toronto, that is certainly the case. A lot of meetings never opened up after the pandemic. But you know what? I spend a lot of time on Zoom, and I feel as close to Kathy and Mary and Pam and Legion, you know, as I do any of the people that I knew in person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, why? Because we spend a lot of time together. You know, you show up a little bit before the meeting, you stay a little bit after the meeting for the fellowship to learn about everybody. And Jenny too. I can't forget about Jenny and her new little kitty cat that she picks up next week. That's the, if you see her profile picture, that's the kitty cat that she's picking up next week. So, you know, and these are the things that we learn about each other. You know, health problems, you know, marriage proposals, you know, all these incredible things, marriage breakups, you know, good, bad, and indifferent. You know, we have a little bit of knowledge about each other. And you know what? It's an incredible life. You people are special to me. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. This is kind of a punctuated paragraph, and that is that it is a common solution. There is a common problem and a common solution, and it is a solution, and it is what we describe in this book. And it's specific to one of, there are other ways, but this is the one that works by and large for us, and it certainly worked for me. So, Rob?
Yeah, and as you had said before we started reading this chapter, you cannot have a common solution if you do not have a common problem. So we're on page 18, everybody. An illness of this sort, and we have come to believe that an illness involves those about us in a way no other human sickness can. If a person has cancer, all are sorry for him, and no one is angry or hurt. But not so with the alcoholic illness, for with it there goes an annihilation of all the things worthwhile in life. It engulfs all whose lives touch the sufferers. It brings misunderstanding, fierce resentment, financial insecurity, disgusted friends and employers, warped lives of blameless children, sad wives and parents. Anyone can increase the list.
Yeah, and this is so true in that, you know, for somebody that has an illness that such as cancer, you know, everybody circles around them. They want to support, they want to help, they want to be patient with, and in all manner of fashion. They also want to forgive that person of some of the misgivings they had before. But for an alcoholic, you know, we kind of like that bull in a china cabinet, and we've gone through life with like a little tornado or a Tasmanian devil, and it has broken, it has mixed up, it has stressed, it has caused pain, etc. And those are not forgotten. there is this different kind of feeling for somebody that's an alcoholic, and that they think that they brought it on themselves, that this is all their fault, and that they could just stop if they wanted to, but they really don't want to. And it's just that misunderstanding, and those misgivings are increased because of it. So the idea here is that we're trying to reemphasize or emphasize to the alcoholic to be aware and be prepared for these kind of reactions and responses. At the same time, for somebody that's not an alcoholic, that's trying to learn how to work with and be around an alcoholic that's going through recovery, is to remember that this is a disease, and that it should be treated similarly as you would any other person that has a disease and is suffering through that. So it's a good message to try and, one, prep an alcoholic to not expect that, you know, things are going to be hunky-dory with everybody, and that they're going to just swarm you with all kinds of support and love, and be prepared for the fact that people are still going to have ill feelings. They're going to have resentments, and that's going to go for a while. So, Rob?
Yeah. We hope this volume will inform and comfort those who are or who may be affected. There are many. Highly competent psychiatrists who have dealt with us have found it sometimes impossible to persuade an alcoholic to discuss his situation without reserve. Strangely enough, wives, parents, and intimate friends usually find us even more unapproachable than do the psychiatrist and the doctor.
Yeah, I think that there's some truth to that. I know that when I have seen counselors that I have gone to, in fact, I still see on a monthly basis now a psychologist. He deals in addiction and alcoholism, and it's, you know, we have a good relationship. I learned a long time ago that that they can't help you if you're not open and honest with them. So I have committed myself to being open and honest with my psychologist that I see. And I think there were times when I was probably more forthcoming with him than I was with others. Although I feel like at this point in time, after as long as I've been, and I'm saying as long as I've been, I'm still relatively new in recovery, but I feel as long as I've been sober, that I have over time opened up and been more forthright with people that are closer to me, including my wife and my sons and my brothers, etc. So it really is kind of up to the individual. And I think what I would say is a message to everyone, and that is that if you are in fact talking to somebody about your problem, as long as they're a trusted agent, meaning, you know, somebody like a spouse or a sibling, or if it is somebody that's professional, like a psychiatrist or a psychologist or anything like that, that the best recourse, or the best, trying to think of the word I'm looking for, but the best approach is to be open and honest. Rob?
Yeah, it's hard to be honest with psychiatrists and doctors when we don't understand ourselves why we keep doing what we do. And as I had said a little bit earlier, when I came into AA, I didn't understand why I did what I did. I couldn't understand why, when I started drinking, that I just got thirstier. I just didn't know. Today I know, because I've studied this big book and with other people that understood it and were able to inform me. One of the most important items in the book I'm going to read right now, it's in italics. They paid extra for this. Remember, they didn't have any money. AA. To get this book out, they had to beg, borrow, and steal money from wherever they could get it, you know? So when they were putting extra money into italics, it must have been important. So here we go. But the ex-prone drinker who has found this solution, who is properly armed with facts about himself, can generally win the entire confidence of another alcoholic in a few hours. Until such an understanding is reached, little or nothing can be accomplished.
Yeah, this is a profound statement right here. It is important to kind of get, and you're right, Rob, they did pay extra and put it in italics. And so it's something to highlight and make sure you remember this is a great idea for a sponsor and and for sponsorship. It's really for both. That's an important distinction here with regard to what they're trying to say here. It's important to be armed with the facts, and this book is certainly full of facts. It's a great resource for that, obviously. And knowing about the allergy and the malady, that is certainly a thing that we're going to learn more about as we go along. And with that comes confidence. Knowledge creates confidence. That confidence creates belief in what you're doing, and that belief in what you're doing creates the faith that you need in order to be able to accomplish the goal of sobriety and true recovery. Rob?
Yeah, Leo, I'm going to skip over to page 180 right now.
Okay.
And we're going to Dr. Bob's nightmare. Now, this is when Dr. Bob first met Bill. Now, remember that Dr. Bob did not want to meet with Bill. He said, I'll give him 15 minutes and then we're going to get out. Okay. Why? Because Dr. Bob didn't see any point in it. But on page 180, listen to what Dr. Bob had to say. And it's about the middle of the page. Of far more importance was the fact that he was the first living human with whom I had ever talked, who knew what he was talking about in regard to alcoholism from an actual experience. In other words, he talked my language. He knew all the answers, and certainly not because he had picked them up in his readings. You know, and that is Bill talking to Dr. Bob. He was able. Remember, Dr. Bob had been going to the Oxford group for a couple of years, but he just couldn't relate to these other people. But Bill, first time he met, was able to get through to Dr. Bob. So you, being an alcoholic, can get through to another alcoholic. Why? Because you understand the drinking game. So please keep that in mind. That the man who is making the approach has had the same difficulty, that he obviously knows what he is talking about, that his whole deportment shouts at the new prospect that he is a man with a real answer, that he has no attitude of holier than thou, nothing whatever except a sincere desire to be helpful, that there are no fees to pay, no axes to grind, no people to please, no lectures to be endured. These are the conditions we have found most effective. After such an approach, many take up their beds and walk again.
Yeah, absolutely. And this understanding of kind of step one, if you will, with the last couple of paragraphs, and a complete understanding of the malady and the allergy are imperative for this to help and to come true. The idea here too, as a sponsor or somebody that's just reaching out to a newcomer, this is also important, and that is that that there's a desire to be helpful. There are no fees to pay, no axes to grind. This isn't a situation where you're basically complaining and whining and about things, and no lectures to be endured. But this isn't a finger pointing kind of exercise when you approach another person, and that and you shouldn't feel like you're being lectured to. If you are, you're going down the wrong path, and that the discussion is going in the wrong direction. So this is really important for people that are thinking about approaching other people and how to approach them. This is what not to do. So, Rob?
Yep, page 19, everybody at the top. None of us makes the sole vocation of this work, nor do we think its effectiveness would be increased if we did. We feel that elimination of our drinking is but a beginning. A much more important demonstration of our principles lies before us in our respective homes, occupations, and affairs. All of us spend much of our spare time in the sort of effort which we are going to describe. A few are fortunate enough to be so situated that they can give nearly all their time to the work.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things here. It's one is that it's telling you that there is no expectation that you have to do this 100% of your time. That you've got a life, you should live that life. There should be a balance there. This should be a part of your life, but not so much so that other things suffer. And that's what they're trying to say. So if you are somebody that might be in a position where you can commit most of your free time to this, then that is wonderful. Okay. But if you're a person that might still have a job, that you've got young kids, that you've got sports, that you have to attend to, or activities the family has to do. If you've got a sick relative or something that you're taking care of and that type of thing, please make sure that you're putting the right amount of time towards those. And what little time you have, if you have time, then you should be out there working with other people and carrying the message forward. So it's a balancing act, and that's what they're trying to say here. No expectation that you have to commit all your time to it and other things to suffer. That's the wrong way to look at it. And that's what they're trying to say. Rob?
Yeah, much more important demonstration of our principles lies before us in our respective homes. You know, we can act a certain way in the fellowship for an hour. It's what we do when we go home and how we treat our family members, our pets, etc. You know, and the idea isn't just to act a certain way in the meetings. It's to act that way in life. You know, what would God have me do in this situation? A whole new way of living, changing our thinking patterns 180 degrees, you know, so please keep that in mind. If we keep on the way we're going, there's little doubt that much good will result, but the surface of the problem would hardly be scratched. Those of us who live in large cities are overcome by the reflection that close by hundreds are dropping into oblivion every day. Many could recover if they had the opportunity we have enjoyed. How then shall we present that which is so freely given us?
Yeah. And so this is just a good question. It's a good kind of a wake up that, you know, anybody that's near a large population, which most of us are, there are hundreds of people that are not even being touched at this point. So it is a target-rich environment when it comes to finding newcomers and working with them. And it does say this, and I think it's very true. Many could recover if they had the opportunity we have enjoyed. So that in and of itself is a good motivator to get out there and find newcomers and get them at least started down the path, if not to sponsor them all the way through. Okay, we'll read this last paragraph, Rob, and then we'll turn it over to Bill.
It sounds great. We have concluded to publish an anonymous volume setting forth the problem as we see it. We shall bring to the task our combined experience and knowledge. This should suggest a useful program for anyone concerned with a drinking problem.
Yep. And I want to reinforce that we're talking about as we see it, is the first 100 or so is the ones that they were referring to. And it is it's their program, it's their program or an our program, not my program. We are just as a participant in it and following along as to what the first 100 had done. So with that, I'm going to open things up to Bill, and we'll conclude for the day. Thank you, Bill.
Okay. Hi, this is Bill Alcoholic from New Jersey. Thanks a lot, guys. Good job today. This is a real important part of the book. The last part of Bill's story here that we went through, there's some really, really good information in there. On the bottom of page 14 and the top of page 15, it tells us how to perfect and enlarge our spiritual life through work and self-sacrifice for others. It's giving us instructions here on how to get better. How do we get spiritual? By trying to help somebody else get spiritual. And it gives us a warning. It says, if he did not work, he would surely drink again. So the work is not going through the steps. The work is taking someone else through the steps. And you can't take someone else through the steps until you go through them yourself. You can't give something away if you don't have it. So he's basically giving us instructions here on how we can be spiritually fit. And he's giving us a warning that if we don't, we would surely drink again. And then the next paragraph on page 15, it tells us how to stay sober. It says, Bill, I was not too well at the time and was plagued by waves of self-pity and resentment that sometimes nearly drove me back to drink. Bill was ready to drink. This is after Bill had his spiritual experience. The spiritual experience will not keep you sober. It can get you sober. It can take away your desire to drink, but it's going to wear off if you stop doing the work in this book. If you just have a spiritual experience, say, okay, that's it, and then you go about your merry way, sooner or later it's going to wear off. And it started wearing off on Bill here. And it says, but I soon found that when all other measures failed, work with another alcoholic would save the day. It doesn't say that he picked up the coffee cups. It doesn't say double up on his meetings. It doesn't say call your sponsor. It says work with another alcoholic would save the day. That means taking someone else through this process, or at least trying to get them through the process. That's what saved the day. Bill was ready to drink after he had his spiritual experience. And what did he do? He went and he tried to help another alcoholic, and that kept him from drinking. He didn't smash the idea that he wanted to drink all by himself. He used step 12 to get rid of that idea. Step 12 is what keeps us sober, trying to carry this message. Nothing will keep you sober more than trying to help another alcoholic stay sober. And then that's basically the point he's trying to get through to us here. And on the bottom of the page, it says, we meet frequently so that newcomers may find the fellowship they seek. If we don't have newcomers, we don't have a program. You can't do step 12 without a newcomer. Who are you going to 12 step? Yourself? The only way you can do step 12 is carry the message to someone who doesn't have the message yet. That would be a newcomer. That's why a newcomer is important. And then at the end here, it talks about what was going on in his home. This guy, Bill Cousins, killed himself. And like Rob pointed out, they have an excerpt out of a newspaper, and the guy put a hose or a tube on a gas jet and inhaled the gas and died. So, whatever, these things happen. And then right at the end, it says, Bill W., co-founder of AA, died January 24th, 1971. I don't know if this is important or not, but January 24th was Bill Wilson's wedding anniversary. He died on his wedding anniversary. Just a coincidence? I don't know, but that's what happened. And then we went on to the next chapter. There is a solution. And like you guys pointed out, there is a solution. A means one. There isn't 50 different solutions. As far as Alcoholics Anonymous is concerned, there's only one solution. And right in the first paragraph, it says, nearly all have recovered. They have solved the drink problem. They use that word recovered there. And it says nearly all. It doesn't say all recovered. Just like in how it works, it says, rarely have we seen a person fail. Bill knew enough not to claim 100% success rate, because if he did, as soon as somebody didn't make it, it would blow the whole program out of the water. Bill was smart enough to know never say never. And how do they recover? They solved the drink problem. That's what recovered means. It means we were able to stop drinking. That's basically all it means. It doesn't mean you're cured. It just means we got better and we don't have to drink again. Then he goes through here. It talks a little bit about this here. When a ship crashes or sinks or whatever, and he's trying to say that if we go through a common peril, we have something that helps us stick together, and that's the powerful cement that binds us. And what he's talking about here, this is a relation to the fellowship. He's saying we go through this common peril, and then we all become friends, and we can hang out with each other and that kind of stuff. But that's not enough to keep us recovered. You can't just recover on one thing. And then he talks in the next paragraph about the common solution. The common solution is the program of action, the 12 steps. So if you have the fellowship and you have the program, you've got your best chance of staying sober. If you just use one of them or the other, you're going to have a little bit harder time. I'm not saying you can't get sober just going to the fellowship, because there's a lot of people that do that. They sit around white knuckling it. If you can do that, great. God bless you. I hope it works for you. But according to this book, you need more than just the fellowship to stay sober. You need to get into the program also. And then he told us on page 18 in the italics, pretty basically, an alcoholic can get through to another alcoholic like no non-alcoholic can. Why? Because we understand each other. We went through what the newcomer is going through, so we know what they're going through, and we can tell them how we got through it, and that's what can help them. Somebody that's some kind of a doctor or a psychiatrist that's got all kinds of degrees, if they didn't go through the same thing I did and they didn't drink like I did, how can they tell me what I need to know so I don't have to pick up a drink? An alcoholic can help another alcoholic a lot more than any non-alcoholic can. That's all I got. Thanks a lot for letting me share.
Thank you, Bill.
Yep. Thank you. All right. We'll close out with the serenity prayer there, Bill. Rob, sorry.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.